This is Akindele Afolabi. I have made this video on how to communicate your personal brand purposely for you if you have failed an interview before and you want to learn how not to, or if you have been denied jobs, promotion, or business opportunities that you know you're qualified for, or if you want to find out how to get to work with an organization that you desire to work with. I'm going to use a personal brand canvas to teach all this. But before we go into the details, I would like us to do just a simple exercise. Now, what I want you to do is to think of a person you know as an interesting personality, an interesting personal brand. It may not necessarily be a high profile individual like your Obama, like your Oprah, but just think of someone. It could be a colleague, it could be a friend that you know has an interesting personality. Now, what words would you use to describe them is the next thing I want you to do for me. And also, why do you think they have an interesting personal brand? Then ask yourself, what tools do they use to build their personal brand? And why do they build a personal brand? Now let me start with this last question. Why do they build a personal brand? I'll pose the question to you. Why do you need to build a personal brand? Now, your personal brand is very critical in building a career. If we are limiting it to a career talk now, this is why I am saying this. It puts out words for you on what you stand for, and you are able to attract to yourself the people that like your brand. That's one key thing that your personal brand does for you. So whether it is good or not, it puts out word for you, and it causes you to attract people to yourself that like your type of brand. Okay, so if you really want to get to work in the organization you desire, then your personal brand must align with what they stand for. Your personal brand must be able to attract them to you. Secondly, it helps in differentiating you from many others in your career space. Think of yourself as an accountant. Your personal brand is what will differentiate you from other accountants just like you. Thirdly, it can also help in building your career capital. Your career capital is the currency for your employability. Now that there is nothing called job security again, it has been replaced by employability. Your personal brand can help you to build that career capital, which is the currency that you spend when we talk about employability. It is also a key step in building a good reputation for you. Your reputation is the experience of your brand. But before people start getting interest in you, before they start forming opinion in their minds about you, they must first see your personal brand. So let's go to the personal canvas, and I'm going to show you how everything in the personal canvas ties together. Now, there are three fundamentals of your personal branding. The first is values, the second is promise, and the third is positioning. I am going to take time to explain this one by one. So we start with values. Your value is what you stand for. Your value is what describes you. Your value is everything about you. Your value influences your behavior. It influences the decisions you make. It influences all that happens to you. It is the foundation of your life. It is what tells the direction that you go. Okay, so we could use words like sophisticated, visionary, analytical, focused, ambitious, creative, reliable, challenging, competitive, and all that to describe an individual. These are the values of that individual. These are the things that we perceive about this individual, and we can say that they have a value. So you have your values, and you must be able to identify what your values are. Now you can do this by asking a friend, that will be sincere with you, that what do you think are my values. You can also do this by drawing a map of your life. Start from maybe when you were 10, 15, 20 years old, and do a career mapping. Okay, at what times can we say that you had your highs and your lows? Okay, what are the things that were responsible for those highs and those lows? Some of the key decisions that you have made in your lives, what really influenced those decisions? These are some of the ways that you can identify what your values are, apart from using some tools. Okay, is it just about your values? No. Your organizations, your potential employers also have their own values. Just like you have what you stand for, their values are what they stand for. Okay, so in your own case, we could say that you're analytical, you're visionary, and all that we talked about earlier on. The same goes for your potential employer. They have their own values. Some of them, you see it on their website where they put it there. They call it core values. Some of them will say integrity, humility, empathy. They list those things on their website. But I would advise you not to depend on what you see on the website alone to judge what are the values of your potential employers. Speak to an employee in that organization to find out how they really do things. Because sometimes organizations put out values on their website, but they don't follow it. I don't know how many times you have come across an organization that claim to have customer service as their core value, but your experience in that organization does not tally in any way with that customer service that they call their value. So my suggestion is for you to know what the values of your potential employers are. Ask people that work with them. Search for news about them. If they have had a crisis before or any public issue, how did they handle such crises? This will give you an idea of what really are the values of this organization, what really drives their behavior beyond what they put out on their website. So now that you have identified your values and that of your potential employers, what next? There must be a fit between your value and their value if there is going to be any form of communication of your brand to that potential employer. What do I mean? One thing is for you to have your own values, another thing is for them to have their own values. But at what point do these fit? Is there a connection between these two? Let me give you an example. One of your most important values is creativity. Okay, now you have a potential employer. Is creativity one of their most important values? If not, then there is no fit. So that means if you get an opportunity to work in that organization, it might lead to frustration because you value creativity but they don't value it. That is why it is important for there to be a fit between your values and that of your target employer. The next key thing about your personal brand is the promise. Now, your promise is the benefit that the organization stands to get because of those values that you have. There are those things that you would do for them based on what you value. Let me use the example of creativity again. Creativity is one of your values, but what does that mean to your potential employer? So if you're claiming that creativity is your value, the next question is, how will my potential employer benefit from my value of creativity? For instance, you could say, I am creative, which means that I can help my potential employer to get to their target market in the most cost-effective way. I mean, that's one way to put your promise across based on the value that you have. So it doesn't just stop at having those values. The second fundamental thing about your personal brand is the promise. So you must know how your values benefit your potential employer. Now we go to the third one, which is positioning. Your positioning is the advantage you have over others. Your positioning is that which gives you an edge over other people that may share the same values with you, whose values also align with the value of their potential employers, and who also have promises to offer. How are you different from them is your positioning. Your positioning could be perhaps your previous experience in using some of those values that are key, that are important to that potential employer. Okay, you must know this, and you must be able to put it out there for them to know. So the fundamentals of your personal brand are: one, your values, that of the potential employer, your promise to them, which is the benefit they're going to get from you, and also your positioning, the competitive advantage you have over every other potential candidate that they might have for that job. So these are the foundation of communicating your consistent personal brand. But you need to bring all this to life, and you do this by three major things. The first is your communications. Your communication is the message that you put out there. When we talk about you, what message comes to mind? Is the message consistent over time? How do you engage your target employer, your target client, those people that you want your brand to be attracted to? Where, when, how do you communicate with them? How is your use of social media? So basically, your communication is the message that you put out there. Now, the second one is your design, which is the medium that you use to put out your message. It is about you, your personal appearance, for instance, your clothing, okay, your digital materials, for instance, if you have a personal website, the look and the feel, which would in one way or the other tell people about you. If you have a blog, your LinkedIn profile, it's not just about the message which comes under communication, but also how is your LinkedIn profile? How is your resume constructed? If we look at your resume, is it full of errors, mistakes? If we look at your Facebook page, what information do we get from there? Okay, beyond what you are saying, those pictures that you put up there, the videos that you put up there, the things that you share, Now, the third one is your behavior. Your behavior is the most important thing in your brand. Why do I say that? Your behavior is an offshoot of your values. So it goes beyond just putting your values in communication. It goes beyond using facials, okay, to color our perception of you. Your behavior is actually what gives out what your values are, because you cannot fake your behavior over a long period of time, and whichever way that you behave is the actual experience of your value. I don't know if you have gone for an interview before and you thought that you have done fantastically well. You thought that you are sure to get the job, but at the end of the day you got a regret email saying that we're sorry, we cannot proceed with your interview, that we would rather drop it at this point, and you're wondering why. It could be because your values, those things that you have communicated on your resume and what you say on your LinkedIn profile, they cannot experience them through your behavior when they engage with you in a discussion. You know, when interview is properly done, it is actually trying to elicit information about your past behavior so that they can make a judgment about your future behavior. So you must bear it in mind that when you go for an interview, it's an assessment of your behavior. Or when you go for an assessment center too, which actually gives you an opportunity to simulate a real life experience, what they are trying to do is to assess your behavior. So whatever they see, whatever they observe, it's going to be their conclusion about what your values are. So it is not just enough to have values written down, to claim that you are creative, to claim that, okay, you are analytical, you are strategic and all that. Those things must play out in your behavior. And if you look at this canvas, you will know that one thing that is very, very obvious, that is very is consistency. Consistency is key in communicating your personal brand. That's why you cannot claim to have certain values and it is not demonstrated in your behavior. You cannot claim to have certain values and we can't see how they benefit your potential employer. We cannot see those values being communicated in your message. They don't come across to us. We don't see them being passed out in your design. We look at your profile and we see mistakes. We look at your resume, we see mistakes. There is no consistency. So bear it in mind that consistency is very key. Now I want you to do something for me. I want you to do exercise which will help to bring to bear what I have been talking about. This is what I want you to do. Choose a friend or a colleague and work with that person to 1. Identify their personal values. 2. Identify their target employer's values. 3. What makes you think those are their values? In other words, your friend that you have helped to identify his or her personal value, what makes you think that this is the friend's value? And secondly, the target employer, what makes you think that those values that you have written down are what the target employers stand for? Remember, I told you earlier that don't judge your target employer based on the values that they put out on their website. Speak to employees of that organization. Search for news about them. That will actually give you an idea of what they truly live. Then number 4, is there a fit between your friends or your colleagues' value and that of the target employer? Identify their brand promise and positioning. In other words, based on their values, what do they benefit the potential employer, and how well positioned are they. Okay, this is an exercise that you need to take time to do, because you might not really have an opportunity to know other potential candidates for the job. So this means that whatever it would take you, you must be well positioned, because you don't know what the next person that is interested in that job is coming up with. So for you, your positioning must be properly done. You must put forward all those advantages that you have in a way that will show your potential employer that you are the best thing that can ever happen to them. And number 6, identify one way, as much as it is applicable, that you can use communication, design, and behavior to bring to life the personal brand of your friend or your colleague that you're working with. And after doing this for your friend, take turn. Let your friend also take you through the same process, and let's see what you come up with at the end of the day. Now, before I end this training, one thing I want you to do for me, so that it's not just going to be one of those things that you listen to and you don't take action, to come up with an action plan. I want you to write out, based on what you have learned from this video, 3 things that you are going to do before the end of this week, before the end of this month, to boost your personal brand. Now, I want you to also have an accountability partner that you would tell that, okay, these are the 3 things that I want to do based on what I learned from this video. Could you please help me to track my progress? I would like to do this over a period of 1 week, over a period of 1 month. Please help me so that I can go through this. If you do this, then you are on your way to actually benefiting from this training program, because it is not just listening to things, reading books that make us learn. We learn by doing. Any questions on this training, you could send an email to services@thecareeredge.biz. And if you want more of training programs like this, you could join our Facebook group, where we share insights for career success. Thank you very much for listening, and I believe that this program has opened your eyes to how you can develop your consistent